She's been here for just over half a year, looking after the real estate and construction sector for AGBI. Valentina Pasquali is in the studio this morning. Valentina, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
And it's lovely to get the views of someone who has come from Washington, D.C. More than a decade and a half you've been covering the property sector there. So lovely to get your thoughts about our property sector and what's happening in it. I'm looking at a story that you guys are going to be posting this morning about our fractional ownership market. More players coming into it, which is exciting. Before we get into what's happening, remind us what fractional ownership is all about.
Exactly. It's essentially the concept means that multiple investors can join up and buy a property together, meaning each of them will own a piece of the property. And by and large, this is for rental and investment properties, will receive rent and appreciation based on their expenses, their initial outlays. That's the framework. It varies by countries, it varies by companies, just to keep that in mind.
Right. So why would a buyer want to do that?
Because in Dubai, and not just in Dubai, but in much of the world, real estate has become really quite expensive. Real estate is also traditionally the way that a lot of people build wealth. And so this idea of buying shares of a property is meant to provide people that have some money, but not quite enough to buy an entire property, to get access, to get a toehold into the market and start making some money off of it.
Right. So you have just moved here from the US. How does it work there?
The concept has been around for a while in the US. And one of the things that's interesting to me is that it's never quite taken off at scale. And it's sort of one of the things that every once in a while it's advertised as the best next thing, and it's not quite there yet necessarily. Technology advancements make it easier. This is what we're seeing in Dubai as well. We have all of these new platforms that just much like Uber or Careem make it easier to do things online for regular consumers. There is a new wave of startups even there that are promoting it. I think it remains a niche product for a niche market as of now.
Right. Okay. So it's been in the market here for a couple of years. We've spoken to the guys at Stake who have indeed, as you say, made it very techy, so very accessible a couple of times. But we've got a big name joining them in the shape of Amira Sajwani, who is real estate royalty. What's she doing?
That's right. They started a new company called Pripco. They just sort of launched earlier this year. And in fact, there was an announcement, I would say, earlier this month where they funded their first properties. And that was more than 200 investors from 40 countries around the world, if I'm not mistaken. And they have a second property that I think it's near full funding and more coming online. And obviously, there is a lot of real estate expertise behind that company in the name that you mentioned and the Mac Properties.
What kind of properties make the best fractional ownership?
This is a great question. I don't think we have an answer yet. And I think that's a theme for fractional ownership in general. There are not necessarily a lot of answers because it's recent, and especially it has not gone through a market downturn. And so I can tell you in India, I think office is actually primarily the destination of fractional ownership investment. Here, I think it's still more geared towards residential. In the US, there is a whole tradition of vacation homes in what I called timeshare plus. Timeshare, you only get rights to use the nights, whereas in fractional ownership, you get the share of the underlying property and some usage out of it. So you see there are many options, and I don't know that we know the answers as to what is best.
Okay, so it works out cheaper in that you're not buying a whole flat or a whole office, as you say. But what does it mean for all of the fees and the commissions and all the plus that goes around property purchasing?
Exactly one of the things that I think it's important to look into. There are fees, obviously, because especially when you're joining a special purpose vehicle that has hundreds of investors in it, you're obviously not going to have any say in the daily management of it. There'll be votes. The shareholders can vote, but the property platform will take care of repairs, maintenance, renting it out, furniture, all of it. And that costs money. And so I think fees can be one of the things that one needs to take into account when investing into something like this. They can be pricey. Obviously, they take away a lot of responsibility and time commitment. Real estate sometimes is thought as passive investing, and it's really not passive if you're trying to manage a property. In this case, it is quite more passive than normal.
So anyone who thinks, okay, I don't have a deposit for a flat, but I would be interested in owning real estate in Dubai. What kind of questions do they need to ask, whatever platform, whatever company they go with for fractional ownership? What should you be asking?
Definitely about fees. I would ask about the sort of pool of investors that are already on the platform, because those are the only people that will be able to buy your shares off of you if you want to exit. I would try and get a sense of returns, if any property has been sold already, and how that's worked. Because this market is so new, there hasn't been a lot of turnover yet, and we don't quite know how the exit works. Exit is definitely one of the crucial points here.
Valentina Pasquali is the real estate and construction editor at AGBI. She's got an article that's up on the platform this morning, having a look at the growth of the fractional ownership market here in Dubai. Welcome. It's lovely to have you here from Washington, D.C. It's lovely to have you in the studio for the first time, and I'm sure we will have you again.
Thank you so much.
Dubai Eye 103.8.
Join the conversation.